Hi, fellow musicians and music lovers. To my left is Sandy, aka Sandra D. I'm Shawn. We are the duo The Sheck-Tones, and we're also part of the musical collective Sacred and Secular. And this is Under Consideration, laid back stream of consciousness. Told you it was stream of consciousness.
There you go.
Music show where that we discuss music-related stuff that we have that we are taking under consideration, and that we encourage you to take under consideration. And being a laid-back show, we're going to have a little bit of coffee here in Sandra D's kitchen in Ray County, Missouri, where we're recording this. Here's to you. Hit the spot. And for this episode, what we're encouraging you to take under consideration is something that we're taking under consideration, which is hallelujah. That is, if you've been living under a rock, which I'm guessing most of you have not,
yeah.
You have heard this
a version of it by somebody.
Yes.
It depends on what group. I mean, Katie Lang, for those that
really?
know. Yeah, Katie Lang has done a version of it. Of course, Leonard Cohen is...
yes, who wrote it.
Yes. But everybody from here to there have recorded it. And I think it's because they haven't really looked at the words, but the music is very nice in it. The music is very flowy.
Yeah. Where did you first hear it, Sandra D?
I am trying to remember. I probably heard a live version of it at some point where many moons ago when it first came out, and it just flared and went from coast to coast. So it was a live version somewhere of maybe a younger teenager, played it with the group that they were with, whether it was a family group or whatever. I just can't remember exactly, but it wasn't on a radio, wasn't recorded anywhere. It was a live version of it, which was, it was just awesome.
Yeah. Now, on the other hand, I do remember where I first heard it. This would have been about 25 years ago. I was in Overland Park, Kansas at a Borders bookstore, which again shows how long ago it was. Yeah, because back in the late 90s, by golly.
That's when they had bookstores.
They had bookstores, by gum.
Yeah.
And they were enjoyable too.
Yeah.
So anyway, Borders Books had a 90s version of what my dad, God rest his soul, said they used to have in drugstores and department stores back in the 50s and 60s. You probably will remember this, Sandra D., where that you could go to some department stores and they had like listening booths where you could put on an album.
Yes.
Well, Borders...
Viewed before you bought.
Yes.
That's the behind that, yes.
Yeah. So Borders had a version of that, and a few other stores did too. I want to say, God, was it Best Buy? Or it was Blockbuster, which again also dates me and shows another chain that is...
Another era.
Yeah. But they had... Back before Napster and MP3s made CDs seemingly obsolete, and cassette tapes and so on and so forth, and before vinyl made a comeback, Borders had little listening stations where you could put on headphones and you could listen to stuff. And I had read reviews about this artist, Jeff Buckley. His dad was also a musician back in the late 60s, and his dad had died, and Jeff Buckley had released one studio album called Grace. And I want to say it was released posthumously because Jeff Buckley, may he rest in peace, died. He drowned in a river, and it was some kind of an accident. And I sampled some of the tracks, and for some reason, Hallelujah stayed with me. And at that time, I did not know that Leonard Cohen had written it. I also did not know a lot of the background to it, which is that Leonard Cohen had put it on an album, I think it's called Various Positions, that was released in 1984 or 85, and it basically went nowhere. It didn't get picked up, and then Jeff Buckley recorded it for Grace, and it's just him and a guitar. If you have not listened to it, I will post a link to the video in the description where that you can listen. And it stayed with me, and for some reason, years later, when I got back into playing music, I found it again. And when I was learning to play the bass that my nephew Kyle graciously gave me, I found a Leonard Cohen version where that he does it live. I think it's in London, England, during one of his tours during the later part of his life. And I thought, I can teach myself to play the bass for this. So I was able to learn it. I was able to learn it on keyboard/piano. And when we, in one of our jam-oriented groups, we all learned it. I've been hesitant to continue including it in our live sets, and also been hesitant to include it in a Sacred and Secular project that we have, which is a Leonard Cohen tribute record and a concert dedicated to Leonard Cohen, only because of, as Sandra D. alluded to, it's been recorded a lot. There's a comment that I think about that Marty Stewart actually mentions, and it's actually in reference to Will the Circle or Can the Circle Be Unbroken, which is another widely recorded tune. And with that, he talks about how that it gets crushed by the weight of its own fame. I think I paraphrased him well enough to word that I'm not going to get in trouble with.
Well, and to get across the point that you can overdo a good thing.
Yeah, and Hallelujah is in that situation. It's been recorded by so many people. Now her name escapes me. Susan Boyle. Susan Boyle recorded a version of it. John Cale, who used to be with the Velvet Underground, recorded a version. And if you got any Shrek fans out there, you'll hear a version of that in the first Shrek film.
Yes. A lot of good music in that film too.
Yes, a lot of good music in that film. John Bon Jovi, of all people, recorded a version. There have been a lot of versions of it. And so we've been hesitant to include it. A friend of ours, Gloria McFadden, who's not doing well, we'd kind of taken it out of our jam sets, and she wanted to know what had happened to it, so we put it back in. And when we as a duo, Incarnation of Sacred and Secular, performed it, or performed for Gatsby Day, which is an annual celebration that's typically Gatsby Days over in Excelsior Springs, near where we are here in Ray County, we worked it back in. So I would say, would you say we're kind of still on the fence?
We're on the fence, but it's still a good song for those people who like the song.
Yes.
We had several good responses from passersby.
Yes, we did.
That stop and listen for a little bit, and you could see that they were singing along with it. So it's not, if used sparingly, it's kind of like some good spices. Used sparingly, make the stew pretty good.
That's right. So we encourage you to at least listen to it. And I'll post links to the Jeff Buckley version, see if I can maybe find another link and post that in the description for this episode. And we're going to sign off for now, have our coffee, and continue to ruminate over whether or not we want to continue singing and possibly recording Hallelujah. So,
Skol.
Skol.